Now, remember how I told you that in a major scale it produces a certain set of chords. And we harmonized that scale, and we got that certain set of chords. And we talked about which chords those are exactly. Okay, and we even put them up here. Okay? And it'd be a good idea for you to play these chords. So if you need to push pause right now and play through each one of these, just so you can kind of get it in your ear, go ahead and do that. In fact, that would be a very good thing to do. So push pause and go ahead and play this right now. But I want to explain to you the Roman numeral system. The Roman numeral system is a little more, it gives you more information than just looking at the chord name. For example, an A minor chord. Well, you can have an A minor chord in lots of different scales. For example, an A minor chord is the 2 chord in the key of G major. So if you just see A minor, you really don't know how it's functioning. Is it functioning as a 6 chord, like it does in the key of C here? Or is it functioning as a 2 chord, like it does in the key of G? Or is it functioning as a 3 chord, as it does in the key of F? Is it functioning as, well, actually in E minor you'd have F sharp, you'd have A, C. Yeah, it actually does function as a 4 chord in E minor. It does function as the 5 chord in D natural minor, so on and so forth. So anyway, the point is that the Roman numeral system actually gives you more information because it tells you how the chord is functioning. And the reason that's important is because once you understand how chords are functioning, then you can create different chord progressions based on the chords of that particular scale or key that you're in. So let me show you how this works. Remember how I showed you how you label each one of these? 1, 2, 3, as we had just that C scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this is 8 up here. Well, depending on which chord you have, you just label it as the 2 chord, or the 3 chord, or the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, the 7th chord. Okay? Not to be confused with a dominant 7th. So a lot of times people say 7th chord, meaning a dominant 7th. And we'll talk about dominance in a minute. But we're harmonizing using triadic harmony right now. We're just having 3 notes. When you have 7th chords, you actually have 4 notes and extended chords and so on and so forth. You have other things. But for right now, we're just using triadic harmony. I'm going to show you about the Roman numeral system. I'm going to change my chord style from the standard to the to the Roman numeral here. And you can see that it put in some symbols, Roman numerals. So if you just have 1, that tells you that this particular chord is functioning as a 1 chord. And as soon as you identify the 1 chord, you know which key you're in. That's why that's so important. A 2 minor, that just means that this chord, which happens to be D, which you wouldn't know unless you knew what notes these were on your fretboard. In other words, if you knew the names of all these notes. This is functioning as the 2 chord and it's minor. This is functioning as the 3 chord and it's minor, and it happens to be E minor. This is functioning as the 4 chord, okay, and it's major. And notice how in this particular program that I'm using called Finale, it doesn't put MAJ or capital M or anything next to these Roman numerals. If it's minor, they put minor. If it's major, you just leave it blank. Kind of like you would if this was an F chord, you don't put necessarily F, capital M, you just write F, and everybody knows that's F major. Then you have your 5 chord, then you have your 6th, which is minor, your 7th, which is diminished. Okay. So the Roman numeral system just simply gives you a way to identify how the chord is functioning. So, and what's cool about it is, once you understand, for example, a 2, 6, 5 chord progression, In this case, it'd be D minor, A minor, G major. That's a chord progression. A 2, 6, 5 is a common chord progression. Okay, and once you play D minor to A minor to G, so you can kind of get that in your head, get it in your ears, and then transpose it, which means move it into another key. Transpose it into another key. So, for example, let's transpose this into, let's see if I can do this. Transpose. Let's transpose it up to the key of D. So I'm going to transpose it up a second diatonically, and it just moved all the notes for me. Notice how, if I moved to, since I transposed it into another key, I just moved from the key of C to the key of D. How do I know? Because 2 sharps is D, and and what are they? F sharp and C sharp. So every time I have an F, it's going to be an F sharp, like in this chord and this chord. Also on the space down here, this is always going to be an F sharp. This is always going to be an F sharp. So the key, so if I'm using my Roman numeral system, I can play a 2, 6, 5 chord progression. Well, the chords are going to change, but the way they're functioning is going to stay the same. So I'm just transposing it to a different key. I'm going from C to D. And my chords are going to change. The 2 chord in the key of D is E minor. The 6 chord in the key of D is going to be this B minor chord. And then the 5 chord is going to be your A. Okay? Again, if I want to transpose this, let's say another one. Let's go up to the key of A. Notice how my chords changed, my key signature changed. I now have the key of A, but all of this stuff stayed the same because they're still functioning the same way. It's just the chords are a little bit different. So the 2 chord in the key of A is going to be this B minor chord. The 6 chord is going to be this F sharp minor, and then your 5 chord is going to be this E major chord, which generally leads back to the A. So, and let me just flip this back over so you can see the names of the chords. And A, B minor, C sharp minor, D, E, F sharp minor, G sharp diminished, and then A. So you can see how that is your harmonized scale. And when you're using triadic harmony, when you just have 3 notes, it produces a certain set of chords, and depending on which key you're in will determine what the name of the chord is. So for example, in the key of A, my sharps are F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. This is why I'm so big. I'm a fanatic about making sure my students memorize the key signature, because if I said play a 2-5-1 chord progression in the key of A, you would need to automatically think to yourself, what are the notes in the key of A? A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. And the way you know that is because you've memorized the key signatures. Then you could build those chords based on, for example, B minor. Okay, your 2 chords going to be, okay, you would think, okay, what's the second in the key of A? You go up to B, B, D, F sharp. Okay, so I need some kind of a B chord, so that's a minor chord. Okay, I play a B minor chord. Great, there's my 2 chord. Now I need a 5, and in this particular case, it is E. Well, how do I know? I go up to the 5th of E. Fifth of A. What is the 5th of A? We'll count up A, B, C sharp, D, and E. And okay, so I build a chord on the key on the 5th chord on the E, which is the 5th. So I need E, G sharp, not G natural, and then B. And then I need an A major chord. So a 2-5-1 would be B minor, E, A. A 2-6 would be B minor, F sharp minor, E, and or a 2-6-5 would be B minor, F sharp minor, E, and then back to A, normally for a chord progression. Ends on the tonic. Okay, so hopefully that kind of shows you how the Roman numeral system works, how harmonization works, and hopefully you can start understanding that all chords come from scales, and in order to figure out what scale you're in, you need to analyze the chords and generally look at the last measure of the song that you're playing, and whatever chord you end on is generally speaking the key that you're going to be in. So if you end on A, you're normally in the key of A major. And then you can look at the other chords and try to fit those in that puzzle, although sometimes songs will modulate and go out of the different key, out of the main key, which is something we can talk about later. But for right now, just as we're laying this understanding of harmonization and scales and chords and how all this stuff kind of works together, just know that all chords come from scales. The major scale always produces a certain set of chords, and those chords are in this order: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. And you really need to memorize that. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major.